Welcome to the September 12, 2011 System Oversight Meeting of the Prince George's County Board of Education. Before I begin, please turn off your wireless communications as they tend to interfere with the taping of the meeting. This afternoon, our System Oversight, we will be discussing information systems. At this time, I would like Ms. Patricia Eubanks to please lead us in the board prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance. Stir us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Eubanks. Prince George's County Public Schools and the Board of Education remembering September 11, 2001. Yesterday, September 11, 2011, marked the 10th anniversary of the September 11 attacks on the U.S. The world watched and listened in shock and horror as nearly 3,000 people were killed in an attack on our country. Citizens from 90 different nations died that day. As we commemorate the 10th anniversary of September 11th by remembering the past and reflecting on how to build our future, a moment of silence, please. Thank you for that moment of silence. We continue to keep our prayers for the families who have lost loved ones on that day and for our service men and women who contributed to the safety of this country. Ms. Jackson, if you call the roll, please.
Mr. Armwood?
Present.
Ms. Boston?
Present.
Mr. Burrows?
Aye.
Ms. Eubanks?
Here.
Ms. Higgins? Ms. Johnson?
Present.
Ms. Waller?
Present.
Ms. Jackson?
Present.
Mrs. Beck?
Present.
Ms. Jacobs?
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to take the opportunity to thank my colleagues and people within the school district and the executive cabinet who all prayed for my son, David Micah Jacobs, who was born June 29th, 2011, the highlight of my life. And just want to be thankful to God also, but also to you for your many prayers. At this time, we're going to go to adopting the September 12, 2011 System Oversight Agenda. And colleagues, prior to doing that, items 5.8 through 5.10 have been deleted from the agenda. May I please have a motion to accept as amended? So moved. Thank you, Ms. Beck.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second that we adopt the agenda as amended for our System Oversight meeting today. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, the agenda has been accepted as amended. On 2.5, approval of the June 15, 2011 CIP and Finance Audit and Budget Committee meeting minutes and the August 17, 2011 Finance Audit and Budget and Capital Improvement Work Session minutes. May I have a motion to approve as stated?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Beck.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Waller. It's been properly moved and second that we approve the minutes from June 15th and August 17, 2011 for CIP and FAB. All in favor? Aye. Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Public comment on agenda items. Let's see, we do not have any registered speakers this afternoon for public comment on the System Oversight meeting. With that said, Dr. Height, yield to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome back.
Thank you.
And good afternoon, members of the board. The Prince George's County Board of Education has created a system oversight in its role to review the performance of all operations throughout the school system. This review will be through formal reports, audits, and all reporting methods deemed appropriate. It will include reporting on goals, performance measures, value adds, and level of services provided. The areas covered today in today's system oversight meeting will be informational technology, and it will be led by Mr. Wesley Watts, the Chief of Information Technology, and members of his staff. So at this time, I yield to Mr. Watts to walk us through system oversight.
Thank you, Dr. Height. Good afternoon. Board Chair, Ms. Jacobs, welcome back. board members, Dr. Height, colleagues, and the and the Prince George's County Public Schools community. This afternoon, we'll walk through quickly our metrics, our challenges, and our accomplishments from last year. We'll also review our goals, metrics, and projects planned for this year. One of the core services that we have in information technology is managing and maintaining our IT network infrastructure. Examples of that would be our wide area networks, our local area networks, our wireless networks in our buildings, our phone systems, approximately $65 million worth of infrastructure. We fund this infrastructure through general funds, through the Erate program, lease purchase funds, and this year the QZAB program. Last year, our goal was to try to receive approximately $500,000 from pending E-rate applications. Unfortunately, we were unable to meet that goal. We ran out of time at the end of the year. And I would like to show you our current status as we work into this school year. This slide here is an update basically demonstrating the progress we've made over the summer in getting our funding commitment decision letters issued for Prince George's County Public Schools. As you can see, the first four rows, 2008 through 2011, we have received what's called a funding commitment decision letter for the approximate reimbursement in the last column for each one of those years. The reason FY10 is still in yellow, we're still auditing that year and making sure that's the full reimbursement amount. We are still working on that, and I believe right now we're at about $5 million for that year, not quite the 5.7 that's represented there. This is how much we applied for. The $5 million looks like how much we're going to be approved for. Okay. So through 2008, 9, 10, and 11, we received funding commitment decision letters last month. As you can see those dates above. We are still pending for this year's application. We are working through with USAC, the governing board for the E-rate program, the Schools and Libraries Division. For this year, we approximately applied for $3.9 million. We also applied for an infrastructure upgrade. We applied for $11 million worth of infrastructure in FY12. Okay, this last column that you see, the pending internal connections, is an application that we also have in to upgrade approximately 120 of our buildings. That'll provide an upgraded infrastructure for our switching, as well as a new wireless network for each one of those buildings that are in the application. We're expecting to move forward with these applications as USAC reviews this year, and we hope to be approved for both the internal connections for FY12 and the Priority 1 services for FY12. So what does this mean? Basically, once we received approval for the funding commitment decision letters, we go through a process where we submit a Form 486 to let the federal government know that we are going to pursue these reimbursements. And then we also submit we invoice for these, and that's a Form 472. So right now we're in the process. The 486s have been submitted for those 4 years. We're waiting for approval on 2 of them. 2 of them have been approved, and we will move forward with the invoicing of these years. So we can expect the last 4 columns there, the last column, the first 4 rows, we can expect to receive those funds probably within 4 months, 120 days. And the last one is after it's approved and we receive our funding commitment decision letter, then we move through that process. It'll be 4 months from that approval date. Okay? So this has been a long, drawn-out process for us, and we are very grateful to be working with USAC and the SLD in this process. We rewrote our E-rate policy and our administrative procedure over the last, we submitted it in July, and we began writing that about a year ago. Again, our analysis, we were hoping to start receiving these funds last year, but we missed it by a few months. So I want to jump, do we want to stop or do we want to keep going through questions? So I'm going to jump to another department.
Each section.
How would you like to handle that?
Well, I think it's probably going to be better if we do the questions after each
Okay.
section.
All right?
With that said, Ms. Johnson?
Mr. Watts, if the jobs bill, which was presented to Congress today, if that bill passes, and I have already sent with regard to other provisions under the bill, by the way, it can be, the excerpts from the bill can be downloaded from whitehouse.gov, but one of the major components is internet, adding, upgrading internet in schools. And so I ask you, in anticipation of that bill passing, and I think we all hope it will, have you begun with your team planning how you foresee utilization of that once the bill would pass and we know how much would come into Maryland, Prince George's County? Have you begun the planning for that? I realize it's not complete or whatever.
So to answer your question, yes, we have been planning for the upgrade of our infrastructure regardless of where the funding comes from. So we've been in that process. This year, we'll talk about it a little bit later. We've had 30 buildings that are being upgraded right now through another program. We're hoping to have 120 through the Erate program, and that leaves us approximately 50 more to go. So we're looking for funding and how we can upgrade those 50 buildings over the next year or so. Okay, so we are in that process. We're hoping to use one of the programs that we use with the state of Maryland this year for next year as well, and that will really help us out to get us to 100% of our buildings in that upgraded and, if you will, more modern.
And
okay.
the last is, I would be very hopeful that you would be able to walk us and the community of Prince George's through from start to finish. How many walls do you take out? How many feet of wiring do you, that kind of thing.
Sure.
So you get a general sense of what does it actually take when we say the word upgrade? What will happen and what will it look like when it's completed? Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Higgins?
Thank you, Mr. Watts. You mentioned several times that we missed the timeline by a couple of months on one of those fiscal years. That doesn't mean we will lose the funding, does it?
No, ma'am. So our goal was to try to receive some of that funding last fiscal year. We were hoping that we would be able to achieve that. We were not able to achieve that. So basically, we just received approval in the month of August.
So we will not lose any income as a result?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
No, ma'am.
thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Higgins. That concludes questions, Mr. Watts, from that section.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, the next area we'll review is the Department of Technology Support Services. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit because we've made a few changes here from last year to this year. Due to some budget cuts and staff reductions, we have made some changes to how we're going to support the school district throughout the school year. When our clients and our customers contact us, they basically are looking for a few things from IT. Basically, they want to make sure that they have access to the systems they need. They either use a username and a password. They want to make sure that those systems are up and running at all times, 24/7. That includes the internet. That includes Gmail. That includes Oracle, SchoolMax, VPN, food services, transportation. All of these different systems, there's a high expectation that these run 24/7. And the last thing is when their personal equipment, the equipment that they're assigned to, is not operating properly, they want it fixed as quickly as possible. So this is what we do in IT. We try to keep that level as high as we can. This year, this past year, we had several metrics that focused on the calls that we received from customers and how we responded to them in the help desk. And we also had, So you're going to see some metrics here. These are the metrics of all the tickets. We monitor all tickets coming into the system. And then the next set of metrics we also had based around security. We wanted our staff to be aware, security awareness training. Simple things as such as making sure their passwords were kept secure, to more secure areas where we were actually scanning the network for viruses and bugs and things like that, vulnerabilities. Although these objectives are important, some of these are not mainly what our customer are after. They want to be up and running, service, and their accounts. So we focused on that this year. With some of the changes we've made, we're trying to make sure that we can deliver that as high quality as we can throughout the school year. So it doesn't mean we're not going to do the things that we just spoke about. We will be doing those, but more importantly, we'll be sharing this information about how we respond to customers right up front. So let's talk about FY12. So FY12's core services, some of the things that we're looking at is we have a refresh program. As equipment ages in the district, currently our equipment at high schools is 7 years old. 7-year-old laptops, 7-year-old computers that are sitting in classrooms have a tendency to break more often than a computer that is less of age, obviously. So one of our goals is to try to keep that level of equipment, that age, to be refreshed every so many years. Our goal is every 5 years. Obviously, we have not been able to attain that through some of the budget cuts we've made throughout the past few years, okay? And this was before, actually, Dr. Height. There was some decisions not to refresh equipment to save and spend money on other things, okay? So this year, we're focusing on replacing the high schools. The high schools have the oldest equipment. We focused on middle schools last year, and part of the program, the goal is to provide a working modern computing device for all instructional administrative staff at high schools this year, okay? To give you an example of the extent of that, we have approximately 3,100 individuals in the high schools that will be receiving equipment or have received equipment since the first day of school. We will finish that program at the end of this week. We are working on our last 2 schools and planning to deliver those this week. Another area of concern that has been raised several times in the past in board meetings, as well as concerns internally, is the management and accountability of equipment. One of the things we began working on last year was how can we maintain an asset management system with the complexities of the district? And one of the things that we came up with was that we would design an asset management system that's attached to our financial system, our purchase orders, and we would make sure that every piece of equipment came to a place and was barcoded before it was even handed out or delivered to a school. The purpose behind that is we noticed that when equipment was delivered to a school, we couldn't guarantee that a barcode was on it and that it was in the asset management system. So we began that process with last year's technology refresh. All the equipment that we ordered through the refresh last year was barcoded and placed in the inventory management system. All the equipment this year is being barcoded and placed in the inventory management system. We've been working with the Department of Purchasing to make sure that all equipment that's purchased from schools with their own funds is again shipped, delivered to a central location, barcoded, set up for the school, placed in inventory for the school, and delivered to them. Try to help them out, if you will, but it also helps us manage these assets. We have over 50,000 computing devices in the district, and it's very difficult to manage if we don't have a central location to do these type of things. So, with the help of the applications team and various other individuals with internal audit and various other departments, including, as I mentioned earlier, purchasing, we began developing this, and we've come a long way. We have thousands and thousands of assets already in the system. These are all new assets. We didn't go through the buildings and tag every single old asset. We begin working with the ones that we just purchased. Okay. We created a technology distribution center, and the purpose of that center was to do a few things. One, it was to help with asset management, but other things it was supposed to do is to receive the equipment, to barcode it, to image, to unbox, to place an inventory, and deliver the equipment to the customer. Okay, there's a couple things that happen when you do this. The average laptop that we buy in the county, that is, if you will, provision. We call that provisioning, taking it out of the box, loading it with the proper software, delivering it to the customer, setting it up. If we pay a vendor to do that, that's approximately $200 a device. Doing this internally, this does not cost us those funds, obviously. So just the teacher refresh program, the teacher refresh, the 3,000 devices we were talking about, there's 3,000, 3,100 times 200. That's the savings that we receive just from the teacher laptops. As a convenience to the employees, we began looking at how equipment was assigned to staff. Mobile equipment is assigned to staff as well as to their location. So if you work at Sasser Administration Building and you happen to be an individual that carries a mobile device, in the asset management system, it's assigned to Sasser as well as the individual. Okay? One of the things that we looked at that was occurring at the schools, it was assigned to the staff. It was placed at the location. But the one difference between a central office employee and a school teacher was at the end of every year they had to turn them in. They were stored away in a closet. They weren't used for 2.5 months. Sometimes they showed up missing. They were gone. And if the teacher was lucky, they got the same machine back. Okay? And we thought that that just wasn't right. So we began working on, this is not the way to do it. So we wanted to assign them to the teacher. We wanted to make sure they used them. We wanted to make sure that they had that device wherever they went in the system. So if they went from one school to another, we would make sure the asset was placed in the right location, but it was assigned to the individual. Okay, it was a little, if you will, a little different treatment to the employee, but it was well appreciated by those individuals. So these are some of the things that we've been doing with the distribution center. The last thing that we want to do, we have the technical support. So we do have some field technicians in schools. We have some in central administration. And we have some roaming technicians at our elementary schools. Each roaming technician basically supports about 15 schools, which is very difficult. Our biggest challenge was when a teacher's machine broke, we wanted to be able to respond as quickly as possible. So sometimes when a call came in, our goal is to be able to replace or fix that device within 48 hours. Now, I'm not sure that that's acceptable, but I'm pretty sure that we can get to that goal, okay? And we'll work to become better, that we can do it within 24 hours, as we move along. But it's very challenging with the limited resources we have, both staff and funding, to do this, to make this happen. So we've been working on that and making sure that we're working with the technicians. We have monthly professional development opportunities for technicians and working on ensuring that they have replacement equipment available in the event that someone is not able to use their machine at their site. We'd like to have a few replacements available immediately. The last service is very unique, and it's actually pretty special. This year we opened the doors to a program at Fairmont Heights High School that we finally call the ITI program. It's a partnership between Fairmont Heights and the IT department, or IT division. IT can be a very rewarding career, and what we think is valuable is we would like to be able to expose some of our students to a program that talks and works with developing IT skills with our students. The skills they learn will help prepare them or assist prepare them to be career and college ready. Our goals are really simple. The IT program is a 4-year program. All students are required in the 9th grade to take a course called Computer Repair and Operating Systems to produce a solid foundation in IT fundamentals. By the end of the course, in the 9th grade, our goal is that students will achieve a standard IT certification, A+ certification, in that year. And that's a very lofty goal for 9th graders. We believe that that's not a problem. We'll make it happen. In the 10th grade, students will choose one of 2 strands. They'll choose to go down a systems or networking security engineering program or a mobile programming program. Students who choose the engineering path will study network operating systems, directory services, file services, print services, group policies, security policies, network management, routers, switches, Ethernet, fiber connectivity, etc. Students will prepare for several Microsoft and Cisco certifications tests as they move through their curriculum, move through high school. Students who choose the mobile programming path will study mobile applications and focus on application development for things such as smartphones and tablets. Students will build a sound programming foundation and be supported by IT programmers to assist in developing skills in application development, requirements gathering, project management, and software development lifecycle. Students will also learn about app stores, marketing, and communications. So let me share the metrics for 12. So I've shared with you the core services. So our goal this year is to try to save $1 million in the technology refresh program. Our goal is to put 100% of the equipment that's purchased throughout the county into the asset management system. We can compare that with purchase orders. Our goal is to try to build, provision equipment that shows up at the Technology Distribution Center within 24 hours of receiving it. Our goal is also to remove older equipment throughout the county and have it properly disposed of. The last metrics here on the page in front of you, or on the wall here, is basically focused on what we plan on doing with the students. Our goal is that every student will pass the certification test that's in the program. We'll work with volunteers to help. We have a Prometric testing center at the site, meaning they take the certification test right there. We are an authorized, certified Apple and Dell repair shop. We build and repair the equipment right there. And we do think that students will really, really connect with this program. So we're excited about it, and we do think that this is something worthwhile to add value to student programs. I'm going to stop here. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. And I'll pass it.
Thank you. I have Mr. Burrows, Ms. Boston, and Ms. Johnson.
Mr. Watts, I just wanted to thank you and your staff for the hard work that you do. And this project over at Fairmont Heights really shows your department's willingness to go above and beyond your duties to ensure that all students have the best education and quality programs. I remember when I was a student member, you had this vision all over your board, and you were very, very excited about it. So I'm very happy to see that vision come forward, because I
Thank you, Mr.
know
Burrows.
it's something that you've worked really, really hard on. So I just wanted to thank you for your passion, thank your team for the work that they do, and just to congratulate you on all of your hard work.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Boston.
Hello, Mr. Watts. I also want to thank you for the hard work that you put into making the IT program over at Fairmont Heights to come into fruition. My one question is, how many FTEs will we have to provide to implement this program?
So last year, during the secondary reform conversations, we asked for one position, and that was the teaching position. All other people, staff, are from IT. Instead of working in a central office building, we're at Fairmont Heights. We work at Fairmont.
So some of your staff will actually be housed at Fairmont Heights opposed to being
Yes, ma'am.
in other schools?
One of the unique things that we do have is obviously our staff are there to build and provision computers for the rest of the district, and we do that all the time.
Okay.
But one of the things that we do is every single class has one of our staff in it. So not only is there a teacher, there's also an IT professional in that classroom. And that's how we're going to make it happen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boston. Ms. Johnson and Mr. Armour.
Mr. Watts, when do you expect that IT high school and the inventory that turns over, you will be ready to have it distributed out? I, of course, bring to your attention, I know, the Lazarus Foundation at Howard County Public Schools, with whom I've worked for 10 years, working with them. When can I not have to go to them and can assist in getting computers into the hands of our families who don't need to pay the high retail rate for them? When do you think you'll be ready?
That's a great question, Ms. Johnson. So right now, our phase 1 is complete, or will be complete this week. We're working on phase 2, which is actually instructional computers for high schools. And as we go through that, we'll be working with Mr. Miles and his team as regarding to collecting the old equipment and making proper use of that equipment. Okay, so I would imagine that probably around the Christmas time area is where we'll be able to start looking at
this year?
Absolutely.
Oh, I am absolutely thrilled. At some point, I'll give, some of the board members already know about the work with the Lazarus Foundation. I am so thrilled that it's going to come back in-house. It makes such a difference when a family can take a computer home. When I say at minimal cost, I mean almost free, and to see them light up. It is such a, and to know that our young people are going to be the ones who will refurbish them. It's just, thank you so much. This is a dream come true.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Armwood?
Thank you. Ms. Johnson covered my first question was, what was the status of the old equipment and what we're doing to get it into the hands of students and families that could use that equipment. But an additional question is that, is there any way we can recover cost of that equipment that we don't give to the community, i.e. recycling,
Yes,
refurbishing, selling? Is there any plan or project addressing that?
Yes, sir. So last year, the Department of Purchasing went out to bid for a recycling of technology or equipment. So we obtained that. So we have a contract in place to be able to do that. I don't know the exact details, Mr. Miles. I don't know if you want to share some of that information, but we do have the contract in place, and we'll work towards that.
And that contract will bring revenue into the system as opposed to us paying. Okay. My next question, what is the status of the intercounty wide broadband network? and the implementation of that in schools?
That's a great question, sir. So the broadband grant, as we call it, has about 87 sites, and I think, Mark, are you going to address a little bit of that? So it'll be addressed, sir, in our presentation.
I'm sorry?
It will be addressed in the presentation a little bit later.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question about one of the metrics that you're showing in the FY11 performance report, which I think is critical, is training. A lot of the metrics you've set forth for training have not been met. What is your training plan for the upcoming year, and what are we doing to make sure that staff are properly trained?
So the metric you're referring to is we were trying to publicize and get out and make sure that every staff member took the security awareness course. It's an online course. Lofty goal, we were far from meeting that goal. We had some technical issues at the beginning. We have created a course. It's online. It's in Moodle. But we have not been able to move that out and have everyone in the district take that at this point in time. We do have a training department that trains folks on many different applications, SchoolMax, Oracle, all the various tools, email, things like that. What we haven't done very well last year was the security awareness, the implementation of getting that out there and trying to provide an online learning environment did not go as well as we had hoped.
What have we done to correct that? And
we're still working on that, sir.
Seeing as the equipment loss has been an issue that we've heard about before, or asset loss and so forth, that should be a high priority item. Is the problem that the schools are not, let's say the direct supervisors are not requiring their employees to sign off and attend, or is it strictly technical? No, sir, it's not. It has nothing to do with the departments at this point in time. We have not pushed it as hard as we could have throughout the district. We've had, if you will, higher priorities in moving things out and making sure people could do things like attendance in the classroom and various other technologies. Well, my question about priority is, what was our amount of loss approximately in FY11? I don't have that answer, sir. Do we have any answers to how much we lost in assets?
We do for textbooks, Mr. Armwood, not for technology.
Not for technology?
Right.
So
if Mr. Watts would have, do you have a sense of technology, Mr. Watts?
I do not, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Is it in the thousands or millions of dollars?
I can't answer that, sir. I have no idea.
That being an important asset of the school system, what is our method of tracking those assets, whether they're old or new?
So the methods that we've used in the past with mobile devices is we do have a product on there called CompuTrace. It's a vendor that basically places a product similar to LoJack on a laptop. It has some capabilities if properly administered and properly adhered to. There are provisions to receive replacement or insurance funds for. If it's not properly adhered to, the event is not reported, for example, obviously we don't recover those funds. We do recover funds annually through that. But right now, Mr. Armwood, we have always focused, all the schools have focused on their own personal inventory. And any piece of inventory below $500 has not been in the district's inventory system. And we have a lot of devices now that are coming out that are below that $500 threshold. When we began working on this product that we developed, the asset management system, we wanted to incorporate all assets. We wanted it to be online. We didn't want the schools to make up their own, that type of thing. They all use the same system. So one of the things that we are trying to do is make sure that it is barcoded, make sure it is in the system, make sure we are able to track it. In some cases, we did not track it very well as a district, with them not all being barcoded.
Will we be able to get a report? I'm asking for a report estimating what our losses are in IT assets and specifying a plan what we're doing to protect or recover those assets.
So I'd have to work with some other departments to answer that question. I have to work with internal audit and other departments to do that.
Thank you.
Mr. Armwood, we can, moving forward, currently, the only mechanism that we would be able to report out now on are those that are over $500. So those things, and now that we have this new asset management system, we can capture all of that inside of, but it doesn't account for something that may have been $499 5 years ago that we no longer have, because one of the reasons we went to asset management was because each school had a responsibility to track that from the school's perspective. Now we've gone to a systemic asset management system, so we can do that moving forward. The problem is going to be trying to estimate losses looking back.
I remember inventories done in the schools. What happened to those inventory reports from every year, or each year, an inventory was done?
They all have them.
And comparing, we still have them.
Yes.
So how are we, somebody should be able to track the inventory from 2009 to 2012, and what is the rate of loss, and assign a dollar figure to that.
Yeah, we could do that. We just have to pull individual inventory reports, and some are done more comprehensively and completely than others. But we can. It would at least provide us with the opportunity to provide an estimate.
I'm not trying to.
And internal audit actually could help us with that as well, because they collect that information.
I'm not trying to beat a dead horse to death, but it's just that this is an important part of our budget, and this is something that we do hear about loss in the schools at the school level with regarding IT, and we have to show that we can account for these items. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armwood. Ms. Higgins?
Yes, thank you very much for your presentation. Could you flesh out a little more about refreshing and how priorities are made regarding that process?
So the Technology Refresh Program is designed to refresh equipment throughout the district. Okay, it's a 4-year program, meaning it takes 4 years to refresh all of the sites. Phase 1 are the employees. So we focus on instructional and administrative employees. Many of our staff receive a mobile device, a laptop. It's assigned to them. In cases where we have some support or other administrative staff, we provide desktops, and we replace the desktops. Okay. In addition to phase 1, we go through a second phase at the schools. It's instructional technology. Each school receives approximately $150 per student. So a site like Parkdale that has 2,000 plus students would receive $150 times 2,000. And they would use that. They would work with academics. They would work with their instructional staff and their technology team, the school technology team, as well as ours, to make decisions on what technology best meets their plan in their building.
So, I'm wondering then whether we could say then we don't have computers in our system that are more than 5 years old?
No, ma'am.
That's what I thought.
So let me explain. We don't necessarily take the computers, the older computers, back. Okay. In particular, over the last 5 or 6 years, there were a couple years where we skipped the refresh plan, meaning there was no funding whatsoever for technology. And hence that extended the life of, for example, the high school's laptops are 7 years old today. Okay, and that's the reason they're 7 years old, because we did not refresh them.
And how does the programs that support academic programming, saying like the Science Center or the Schmidt Center, how are they also in this refresh program?
Yes,
are they in the hopper for it?
That's a good question. We currently are refreshing both of the William Schmidt was actually purchased by academic programs, and Owen Science Center is being refreshed this year.
So this is really a system-wide effort?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're using objective criteria in terms of deciding who's next, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I had one other, actually it's a statement more than a question, following up on Ms. Johnson's comment and your response in regards to low-income students. Comcast has a program available for low-income families with at least one child receiving free lunch under the National School Program. They receive internet service at home at a reduced fee and the option to purchase a pre-configured computer and access online. So I'll send this to my colleagues, but that also is another option available to our families.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you very much.
Ms. Eubanks?
I wanted to say thank you as well for the work you're doing in IT, and to thank you from the student body at Fairmont Heights. I was able to be at their back to school night on, I think it was September 2nd, and they're really excited about the program because there are many of our students that won't go to college. They don't have the funds to go to college, and to have something on this side of the Beltway where they can be enthused about and excited. I just wanted to say thank you. The parents thank you. The administration thanks you as well. I just wanted to say thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Eubanks. Ms. Johnson?
Mr. Watts, as we move through the year, I wish to find out when we can have a technology fair. I am so very proud of Ms. Lynch and the staff that she worked with to do the back-to-school fair. I think something of that magnitude to begin. You and I have, over the last few years, we have talked about bringing in technology businesses, companies, to create a couple of day event to enable our staff, our school system, and others. And so I still would like to see that happen, and I hope that that is still part of some of your thought process. And I'm sure that Ms. Lynch will be more than happy to pitch in and reach out and bring someone in. But it's a great opportunity for us to do this. And as you know, Apple is raring to go with any time you can put more than 3 people in a room to talk about their products. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. We currently do something, and maybe we can talk about how that would work out with, we do the Powering Up every year, I guess for the last 11 or 12 years now, 15 years, excuse me, Lisa. We do have the Powering Up program, which usually brings anywhere from 700 to 1,000 people at the site annually.
Mr. Burrows?
Mr. Watts, I did have a question. This is a very, very great program at Fairmont Heights. Have you considered, or maybe this question goes to Dr. Abregast or to Dr. Height, I think students all across the county deserve this program. Have you considered opening this up?
So could I start, Dr. Height? Mr. Burrows, I agree with you. I think this would be a very attractive program to everybody. I do want to, our focus is to make sure this program is right. So we need a little bit of time to make sure we're doing the right thing for the students. It's a very rigorous program, but we do need a little time. And, I'm standing here, I'm excited as can be, but I'm very solemn because I want to show you at the end of the year where we are. So, I've been begging Dr. Height not to publicize this as, too much. My focus has always been the end results, and I want to make sure that we deliver for the students. So if we can do that, then I think everybody in the room will be interested in doing that. I think that's a fair statement.
Opening up maybe a lottery process similar to the middle college or something like that.
Yeah, we were talking about that, Mr. Burrows, and Mr. Watts has been, he's been steadfast in his request to keep it as low-key as possible, but part of it is making sure that, and it's one reason we named it a pilot program. And it's important as a pilot program because we want to make sure, number one, that it's the right curriculum, that the students have the opportunity for the right certification, and it's the right mix of just kind of the application versus the classroom instruction. And as we work through this year, Mr. Watts has not only tried to convince Dr. Albergas and myself, but he's also had to convince Ms. Nicholson, the principal, not to open it up to more students who wants to begin receiving students from across the county into the program. But Mr. Watts is helping us understand that they have to get it right first. And it really is, I've been over there a couple of times now, it really is something to see when you see staff who are going about their regular course of business besides students who are refreshing machines that are going to be used by still other staff throughout the system. So this is the work that the students will be performing is the natural work that has to go on in their system with refreshing, repairing, addressing tickets. It's something to see when you see the excitement of many of the students who are all freshmen too. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Watts?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burrows. That concludes Mr. Watts, the questions on that section.
Very good. So I'm going to pass the baton here to technology applications. Okay. Well, you know what? Before I do that, this is a barcode. It's very hard to see. This is the asset management system. It's all web-based. And we have a couple, just 2 slides here with the students and the teacher. And then this is us refreshing the equipment. So we're refreshing the equipment for the beginning of the school year. As you can see, a lot of work has been accomplished so far since the beginning of the year. I'm going to drop back over to applications.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yusuf Antar, Director of Technology Applications. The department takes care of the student information systems, the instructional departments, the Oracle for business support, and we also maintain or will be maintaining the data warehouse once completed. In addition, we support several systems that integrate with our system, the source system, SchoolMax and the Oracle, such as the FIRST program, the transportation, food services. We also provide scheduling support service and help desk. Our 3 core services is software application implementation and support. That entails making sure the application is up to date on patches and testing. It also makes sure the system security is patched up.
Could you speak a little louder or move the mic to you?
Okay. Can you hear it better?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. The security, is that too loud? Okay. The system security on the patches, make sure it's updated and tested and moved to production. The second core service is the system request authorization. What we do is we make sure the system we have is modified per the user requests, and we have several, we categorize as SRAs being critical, non-critical, and non-essential. And we normally work with all the users to actually assign priority to those SRAs. And normally all critical SRAs are done within up to 36 hours, depending on our priority. For non-essential, we can take up to from 24, 36 hours to 72 hours from the date we're assigned to work on. We, in order to reduce the number of SRAs, we have worked with the several departments to provide tools, reporting tools, so they can request for the data, and several extracts so they can load into their systems. We also continue to work with the performance management group to define critical business process and streamline the current process. We're working today on several systems, and you can see toward the end of my presentation, some of the systems we've implemented so far. Oops. In our performance measures, we met all our measures except the critical, and that's due to the fact we lost almost 20% of our employees due to retirement or changing their status. And so for next year, we expect to lose 3 more people And so I lowered the expectation to 95. I'm still targeting the 100, but I just want to make sure that I can meet at least 95%. Just going through our core services. As you can see with the system integration, we work with all the departments, whether it's security patches, application patches, to make sure the system is always up to date and functional. On the SRAs, we continuously working with the user. Like I said, we evaluate all the requests that's coming through. And this year, as normal, we receive close to about 1,500 to 1,800 requests a year to process. On the system integration, our job is to make sure all systems are integrated with the source system, either the Oracle ERP, or the student applications, or whether data warehouse and other data system that we use, such as Performance Matters, food services, and transportation. Our accomplishment last year, the APEX report, we provided over 75 additional reports for schools, principal, and executives. We've also implemented the leave management, which is currently in rollout phase. We're expecting by January to be rolled out through the whole entire system, including teachers, principals, and we're doing today a pilot for the schools. And the support staff at SASR, they all use the leave management system today online. We have also upgraded the Oracle to 11G. That database makes it ready for the next phase of release 12 in Oracle. We also implemented the ePay slip with the payroll offices. We also decommissioned the legacy system, the AS400 and the mainframe. We have only a few systems left on AS400, and we anticipate to move all the systems within the next 3 months. The asset management system that Mr. Watts talked about was developed in-house. And we also integrate the school budgeting system into our custom budget system in Oracle. For FY12, we're expecting the upgrade to SchoolMac, which is a measuring upgrade with a lot more functionalities and features, and that's expected in October of this year. We are going to be working with all departments to get ready for the R12 upgrade, as long as we still have the funding to do so. We are currently working with the HR department on employee appraisal for the local 2250 and 400. That's it. Any other?
I have one, Ms. Johnson and Mr. Arnold.
Thank you. Let's see. I have three items, one of which is a question. Is the Division of Transportation, its bus routing, et cetera, is that still the only part of our system that's using the AS400?
No, they don't use AS400.
They're off.
We're not aware they're using them, but nobody's using AS400 today except on a couple systems, and actually we're going to move them off. So they shouldn't be using, nobody should use AS400 today. And there shouldn't be nobody on it.
As of when?
About 4 months ago.
When?
Since last year, since last fiscal year, yeah.
Then you've answered my question.
Yeah.
Because I know last year, when we were, getting
Yes.
school started and all that, and we had the glitch, and there was a transportation, parents were called, and that was it, because it was still on the old AS400, and you couldn't do any of the access through the other system. That's fine.
Some users have a hard time moving.
Not a
from
problem.
AS400.
We've trained them, which goes to my next point. On slide number 28, you use the word familiarity, staff or employee familiarity. I really would like to see us move from the use of the word familiarity to highly skilled.
Okay.
Because familiarity means that, they just recognize it. And it could be very cursorily done. I want highly skilled. We are in the 21st century for connectivity, for applications. Our staff, all staff, need to be highly skilled. So I would like to see that word removed from this PowerPoint because you're moving to highly skilled. And with regard to, I think your slide did tell me, but our old legacy systems, they has been decommissioned,
Yes.
correct? And in this time that we saw natural disasters, our backup system capabilities, how are we on doing that, making certain that if something would happen and shut down, we have a backup system we can go to, or we can run parallels and, you know, do crossover. I want to know we can get out of it what we need if something happens and it goes down.
Yeah, all our production systems are backed up every night, and we have a mechanism in place that Mark and Santa will be discussing in detail
Okay.
on the hardware network side.
Okay, because that is a major issue. When the lights go out, I mean, if it's a short term, but what happens if we were right in the middle of running report cards, or we were right in the middle of running student schedules for the start of the school year? What are the security places that we know that there will be no lost data and essentially no productivity lost in producing what we need to produce? That is one of my big concerns.
Sure.
And sure means,
I mean, they will be discussing in detail what
okay.
in my department, we take care of the application side
No,
and
no,
design system, but they
that's
will be
fine.
covering, yes.
But again, your applications are meaningless if the system's dead. And
Correct.
so I want the connectivity for everybody, and I thank you, and I look forward to hearing that next level. Thanks.
Sure.
Mr. Armwood?
Thank you for your presentation. Regarding School Max upgrades, can you give us an idea of what new capabilities we're adding to School Max?
Yeah, sure. The major improvement will be the accessibility of principal to all report grades teacher. Today, the principal cannot access easily the grade of the teachers to make modification, and that will be improved. That's customization we requested about a year ago. A lot more reporting. The scheduling will be a lot more robust. Walk-in schedule improvements. Several reporting criteria that we discussed will be implemented. There's a whole lot of changes. I can forward you information in detail what the upgrade entail.
One capability that we lost when we moved to School Max that impacted, I know high schools a great deal, is the loss of being able to put photographs, pictures of the students with their record. The old system had that capability. School Max, I understand, had that capability, but we did not buy that module.
No, we can load them. We actually have pictures loaded in the system.
So that now the system does have pictures?
Yes, it's always been. It's always have. It's just sometimes the schools don't want to load it.
Okay, so that capability is there and always
Yes,
was
sir.
there. Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Armwood. Ms. Jackson?
Good afternoon.
Hi.
My question is also in regards to the School Max updates. Is it available and you just haven't begun using it yet, or are you awaiting these upgrades or anticipating these upgrades?
No, it's been available for the last 2-3 weeks. We've been testing, and we're expecting the last release. As we test, we found some more issues. We communicate with the vendor, and next week we're expecting another release based on our testing of the product. But we have been testing over the last 2 months, actually.
Thank you.
Ms. Higgins?
Yes, I also had a School Max question. Remembering how challenging it was to get School Max into our system the first time, this you're saying is going to be done in October?
Yes.
During the middle of the school year. How problematic will it be to do an upgrade, and what safety mechanisms do we have in place to make sure it's a smooth transition?
Well, the changes that doesn't involve necessarily the navigation part. It's still the same. It's just improve on the functionality of the product. And in addition, we work with the training department to do the proper training and proper documentation. Now, in case of while we select October, it's due to the first grading period after that. So it'll give us enough time to work on any issues in case there's a problem. So we timed it after the first reporting period.
So we have a corrective action plan
Mhm.
in place that if there are significant problems like there have been in the past, that we'll be able to resolve them.
We can even resolve, worst case scenario, we can just reverse back.
Okay, all right.
But we have been testing the product quite a bit, and there's a great improvement over the previous product.
Okay, thank you, that's nice to hear.
Thank you, Ms. Higgins. That concludes the questions for that section.
Thank you. I'll leave Mr. Mark Turner.
Hello, I'm Mark Turner, your Director of Technology Operations. Thank you for having me here today. I'm here to talk about technology operations and what we do. Our core services start with network services, enterprise support services, operations, student records and archiving, software, and software testing. So in operations, we going back in network services, it has everything from the internet to the desktop. So everything that's got a wire on it and wireless now. So we are implementing wireless in the schools and administration buildings. And enterprise support services has to do with all the core servers in the data centers. And we are rapidly going in towards virtualization of all our servers to provide additional failover capabilities. In operations, this has to do with basically taking care of the wire transfers to the bank and making sure our vendors get paid from that standpoint, and also doing all the backups on the servers here at Sasser and also at our Bonnie Johns and at all our schools. In student records and archiving, that's where we scan in all the paper documents into our Alchemy system for future reference and transcripts for graduated students. And software testing is when academics bring products to us, or even the business, and say, hey, we want to use these particular products in the school system, these particular software, is it okay to use on our network? Does it have viruses? Is it compatible? Can it get out to the internet and get what I want? And we perform those tests and approve, or say, hey, this product has some problems. It's made for Windows 98. We don't support Windows 98. So that's a good example. Here's our metrics, and I'll just flip through these. This particular one has to do with, I wanted to talk about this one's the microfilm office. I've been auditing in the past years our microfilm, and it is starting to age. It does have a tremendous amount of historical information for student records, and we need to duplicate it and also send a copy to the state. The state will save it at the state free, store it for us, and also have a working copy here. This is going through right now our primary contractor, and we'll be presenting it to purchasing for approval in the next month. So we should get this rolling so that we can get our records copied and archived and safely stored. I'm just going to skip through these, get right to the end here. And our accomplishments, with this past year, we doubled our internet access speed from 1 gig to 2 gig, upgraded the middle schools, all the middle schools and high schools from 1 meg to 1 gig, which is quite an accomplishment. Installed wireless in 4 schools to support iPads and laptops and mobile devices. Installed 2 large SANs, one here and at Bonnie Johns, and installed a new firewall Also, a new web content filter application, and decommissioned the mainframe, which is quite a big milestone for IT. We also have the QZAB grant, which is federally funded and trickles down to the State Department of Education. We applied for that this past year and received $3.1 million to upgrade the infrastructure in 30 schools. We have already upgraded 4+ schools with wireless and plan to be finished this project in January. So that will be really awesome for the schools that are receiving that. And if you require a list, I have a list of all the schools here, so don't hesitate to ask. Also, this past year about I'm reverting back to our middle schools and high schools. We upgraded 43 of the middle schools and high schools sites, so to 1 gig, which allows a fairly nice speed for all the students and staff in these schools. And a question came up about the ICBN. It's the count of schools, or I should say facilities. That includes bus lots that will be getting dark fiber is 89, and this will be a 1 gig connection, so that'll be great. Some pretty good speed to these sites. All these sites are inside the Beltway, and it was the county that decided with the schools, but mostly the county, which area was going to be served. They basically said the biggest bang for their buck. So the densest population, number of schools, county facilities were within that area. So that's why that decision was made. With regards to a question that came up from Ms. Johnson, with regards to SIS and ERP and School Max and disaster recovery, we have our production systems here at Sasser, and we have our test systems over at Bonnie John's. So if we have a problem here or there, but mostly here, we can set up at the other locations the systems. So they're always being used daily, and we can fail over to the other sites. Albeit in some cases limited, because they're not the exact equipment, but in general that's the plan. We have backup tapes that are taken off-site every day and stored at alternate sites, and so we're able to also go back if off tape. Tape is the most efficient way to store data. It's also the most portable way to store data, and most large IT organizations do that. That being said, we have a project where we're planning to replicate our SANs between sites. That'll be this year, and that will allow us not to have to carry the tapes off-site physically, but the tapes still will be created at the sites, so that we are portable and we can also recover pretty seamlessly. I'm open to, let's see if I got another slide here. I'm open to questions.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson and Mr. Arnwood.
Thank you, sir, for answering the question. I'd like to know, on slide 32, there was a notation regarding a cascade, I guess it was a cascade that occurred at Bladensburg High School. I'd like to know from that, what have you been able to teach the system employees to avoid a similar incident somewhere else in the system?
Well, our staff are made aware of this kind of incident, and they were tackling this one, because what happened was a laptop would appear on our network, would create a network storm, take the whole school down, and then it would disappear. So the engineers are running around looking for where it's coming from, and then it would disappear and come back. We finally tracked it down, so that knowledge was transferred amongst the engineering staff and the techs to what to look for, albeit when the person plugs in the jack, and storms your network and then takes it out, it's very hard to find.
Right.
On top of that, we also had a couple loops in the building, which also are a network storm. And what we're doing is, technology-wise, as we're replacing the switches in the building, we're buying smarter switches. So they'll identify that there's a loop in the building and turn off that port and stop replicating that loop. And also we're using centralized monitoring that will alert us that, hey, that switch has a loop on it, go look at it. It's been turned off at this port. So it won't take down the whole school, but it might be just one area in that school that will be affected. And that's a great improvement. And as we get these new switches into the school system, that will improve, the quality of the network will improve as that gear gets put in place.
And obviously, what precipitated this was probably an infected laptop.
Absolutely, as viruses, malware.
And you're constantly dealing with staff about utilization of the laptop for things outside of approved PGCPS educational type stuff, correct?
Correct. Not only that, it was their own personal laptop, and it wasn't a school-issued laptop.
Yeah, okay.
So that, you can only do so much.
That is helpful. Wasn't suggesting you weren't doing anything. I just would like to have it articulated.
Thank you for your question.
And if you could, finally, you talked about storage, backup, et cetera.
Yes.
And you did use the term, it is the, it's what we can do about the mobility of it. What I'd like for you, through Mr. Watts, to assist the board in understanding, what would it take for PGCPS to have a state-of-the-art storage backup system, its cost, and how we could go about getting to that?
Well, with regards to the state-of-the-art storage backup system, we actually do have that. We back up 960 servers a day. That includes all the school servers, which are virtual servers, file, print servers. They all get streamed back for the schools, back to Bonnie John's. And here at Sasser, we back up on a similar system. We are looking to improve our performance cost savings wise by replicating to the two SANs and then storing at the site, the opposite site's servers. And that way you've got a better use of resources, and we're not driving up every day and back with tapes. And it has to do with also our cost cutting. All my operators got let go, so we're having techs do it right now.
And Madam Chair, if you could just 10 seconds. Clearly, the location of these are not in facilities that are state-of-the-art. That is what my biggest concern is. I know you all do a great job. You put in everything you can. It doesn't change the fact that we're dealing with facilities that were never meant to do that. And I look forward to when we can get you into a clean house. Clean as in cleared and ready, dust-proof, that kind of thing.
That would be excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Mr. Armwood?
Thank you, sir. Regarding the discussion about disaster recovery, what I find interesting is I worked in IT and network communications back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And many of the capabilities you're describing as state-of-the-art were standard capabilities for newer switches back then. And we're in 2011, and we're still transporting tapes manually. I'm amazed at where we are, and I'm kind of amazed at where you're talking about going is where we were 10 years ago.
That's correct.
Or later. Cloud storage. Has there been any discussion about off-site cloud storage, eliminating the need for transmission lines and hot running data switches?
The challenge there is we have terabytes and terabytes of data, and it's actually a lot of sensitive data, and we need to keep it in-house. Now, I know there are solutions out there that are secure, but we've already invested in SANs, large SANs that can take care of this. So we're in good position to do the replication and set up that technology. The tapes, Believe it or not, tape technology, albeit old, one would perceive, it's portable and it holds a lot of data on the tape, and it's very reliable. You compare that to other media, like disc, you drop it, tape, you drop it, you probably still work, pretty much. You used cassettes yourself, and you'll know that tapes are very robust. That's why the industry is standardized on that as their ultimate failover final backup, because it does work.
Okay. And the IP phone switches, the telephone sets and switches are stuff that I literally sold
Right.
that system 20 years ago.
Right.
And what is our target for upgrading? Because
Good question. It wasn't on this presentation, but we do plan to upgrade the Sasser phone switch, the Bonnie Johns, and the Fab phone switch with IP phone switch from Avaya. We actually have the equipment from the Washington Plaza move in and move out. So we, working with purchasing, I believe Mr. Miles has recently approved the Avaya service contract for that, and we'll be moving forward this year to upgrade the phone equipment here. Not just give you another phone, but we're also going to add the ability to record call centers conversations. So if you have a help desk or a particular, like transportation, they may have a call center, we'll be able to record that, and also at the end of the conversation, we'll be able to ask the person if they want to take a survey. So a quality survey on how that call went. So these are the things that we're looking to implement in this coming year.
will you be having user surveys where we'll be able to get to the function, for instance, our call tree, press 1, press 2, redesign those so that the calls are directed appropriately, because a lot of our complaints come from they don't get the right office, or they have to always go through the board office, as an example, to hopefully get to where they're supposed to, which is expensive and time-consuming.
Yeah, we'll definitely consult all the stakeholders and improve that.
So there'll be formal user survey and involvement in designing the operating system.
Yes, absolutely.
Question on the web filters. I noticed the social networks are generally blocked. I know we could not get to Facebook and so forth.
That's correct.
And now even Dr. Height and the school system are now using Facebook as a communication means. Are we adjusting those filters to reflect what's really going on in the world?
We take our direction from Dr. Height's office and my boss with regards to what we filter. So those decisions are made at a higher level.
Okay, so, well, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the questions for this.
Thank you. Lisa Spencer.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As I get to my slides, before I start, I'd like to take the time to invite each of you to our 15th Annual Power Network Technology Conference. It is held on November the 12th, and we would greatly appreciate your support. Not only that, Dr. Height will be our keynote speaker. So please come out to support us as well as Dr. Height as he gives us an awesome presentation for powering up, Dr. Height. Okay, my name is Lisa Spencer, the Director of Director of Technology Training and Support. And for training and support, we actually have 3 core services. What we do is we provide training for the administrative staff on all the administrative systems that they require access to. We do the training for instructional technology on appropriate use for the technology tools to use in content delivery. And this year we also have the help desk under us. So, let me get to the right slide. No. Okay. Our first goal actually is, as I mentioned before, is on administrative information systems. Here we are focusing on the assessment outcomes for those staff members requiring administrative access to applications such as Oracle, SchoolMax. So those things, when they come in for training, the requirement is that they pass the assessment, and the passing rate is 80% or above. And we're looking to improve that measure from 90 to 93% for this school year. For the second core service goal is on the instructional side, utilizing instructional technology tools for content delivery. We're looking to increase the number of instructional staff we're able to provide training to so that we can help teachers in terms of preparing our students with 21st century skills. Right there it has a baseline for a total of 3,000 trained in the previous school year. That number is going to be adjusted. We're looking to actually train a minimum of 3,200 some odd teachers this coming school year, and we're hoping that based on the new structure for the system, we have a trainer assigned to each of the instructional directors, and with the trainers being assigned to manage 15 schools, we're hoping that we'll be able to get more training out to the schools as opposed to waiting for teachers to come to us for the training. And our final one, the final goal is working with the help desk. One thing that we've done or are doing this year is that we've separated the tickets so that we're looking at priority 1 and priority 2 tickets, and we're saying that for priority 1 tickets, they will be closed within 24 hours, and those are tickets that the expectation is that the help desk will be able to close by the end of the day or within a 24-hour period. And those are tickets such as passwords, log-on issues. We'll get those resolved in 24 hours. For priority 2 tickets, those are more like DNS issues or browser problems or issues with the printer. The expectation may take up to no longer than 48 hours. And anything above that, we're not putting a time limit on it because it includes other people outside of our realm, so we're not saying that's going to be resolved within 48 hours because it's not in our control. All right, so those are our 3 core services that we're going to be working on for this school year. Yes, and that basically is the technology training. There are some accomplishments listed, but there definitely are nowhere near encompassing all of them. We also have our STEP program that's going on and continuing for the school year. And that concludes my presentation. No questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have Cinto come up with the enterprise services.
Good afternoon. My name is Senthil Parameswaran, Enterprise Systems Officer. I manage the Enterprise Systems Office with basically 3 core functionality. We offer 3 core services. Over the years, we have consistently added new applications, new modules, and a lot of users. For instance, recently we rolled out e-payslip for all our employees, and certainly we have 18,000 or so employees wanting to access their e-payslip online. Also, with respect to SchoolMax, we opened up the parent portal aspects of it. So we have over 45,000 parent portal users on the system at any given time. Well, enrolled at any given time. So our objective is to make sure that we have adequate capacity in terms of server processing and storage available to accommodate those changes to the applications or addition of new user base, so on and so forth. The second core service we offer is Enterprise Systems Administration. We not only want to make sure that we have adequate capacity in our systems, we also need to be up and available and accessible across multiple platforms and devices. So we do a lot of maintenance work in order to make that happen, make sure that our systems are available at least 99% of the times. And lastly, we are responsible for the enterprise identity and access management system. With this core service, we make sure that our users have appropriate responsibilities and they have access to these systems in time. So we measured six measures to reflect on how well we do on these three core services. With respect to the systems planning and architecture, we measure our systems capacity utilization rate. With respect to the administration, we measure the enterprise applications uptime. We primarily focus on Oracle e-Business Suite and the SchoolMax Student Information System. We also measure how well we do on successfully backing up our databases and operating systems. Again, that addresses some of our critical data and availability of the data in case of disasters. We also record how successfully we close the service requests that come to our office. We are also responsible to test and migrate high priority patches to production, especially the security patches that the vendors release from time to time. We also measure the time to provision accounts for our employees once they come on board. Of these 6 measures, we did not meet our enterprise applications uptime measure during this year. Basically, during the fiscal year 11, we did a major database upgrade, as well as we are in the process of upgrading a lot of our infrastructure that supports these databases and applications. We had encountered a number of bugs in the application databases, as well as the storage system upgrade that we are currently performing. A significant chunk of the downtime is attributable to these aspects. As well, from time to time, we were maxing out on capacity. That resulted in unplanned downtime. So the way we are planning to address these issues are by adding additional capacity to address our ever-growing user base. So that includes both new servers that provides processing capacity, as well as the storage area networks to provide additional storage capacity. In addition, we also work with the technology applications, technology operations, and the user departments to make sure all these upgrades are tested prior to, are effectively tested, and all the issues are addressed prior to migration to our systems. I have an updated slide, but during FY11, we have upgraded our Oracle e-Business Suite databases and the middleware systems. As well, we had developed a specification for our infrastructure upgrades, and we had procured the equipment during FY11. During this year, we intend to implement all the servers and storage area networks that we have procured, making sure the e-Business Suite and the SchoolMax applications have enough capacity. As well, we are getting ready to upgrade our Oracle e-Business Suite to the next release, Release 12, and support SchoolMax upgrade to Release 2.8.4. With that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. There aren't any for that section.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Earl McJett, the manager of the copier program in the Printing Services Division. And we have 2 core services. And the first is printing services, which really encompasses the print shop itself. And in the print shop, we have been on time with our delivery of print jobs, which may not seem as critical as some of the other issues that we have, but the people out in the field, when they need their materials for their teaching and whatever that they're doing, they do feel it's very critical. So for us This is very important. We do feel that we are a service, and a service that should be used as a tool. And so therefore, we don't dictate to anyone. We just try to provide them the service that they need and have the availability of the equipment when they need it. Secondly is the copier program. The copier program consists of 829 copiers that we have deployed throughout the system. On those 829 copiers, in the last fiscal year, we did 265 million copies. That's a tremendous amount, and we have a new program that we've started to be an awareness program, because that equates to 31,000 trees. And we do feel that it is important that we reduce that wherever possible. On the performance side, you'll see a great number of the items were not met this year, and that had to do directly with the amount of copies that were produced. We did meet the number of print jobs in the print shop and the on-time delivery of those print jobs. However, a great deal of the jobs were not duplexed or printed on two sides. And that, again, is out of our control. We introduced last year the production of posters, which we had not done before. And with the posters, business cards, and a few other things, you cannot duplex them. And the number of those jobs that could not be duplexed greatly increased. Therefore, that metric was not met. The number of service calls, as you can see, we had anticipated to be 2,950 because we refreshed the entire fleet. And that was completed in August of 2010. But instead, we got 4,800 service calls. And again, that is directly attributed to the fact of the increase in the number of copies that were produced. Everything that we found after the introduction of the new or the refreshed fleet was directly, again, as I said, related to the fact that we have made so many copies. We are approaching this year 267 million copies. So we started a program in June to reduce those number of copies. Our contract was negotiated with the assistance of Mr. Miles and added an additional 17 million copies at no cost to the system. The vendor agreed to this. And that was roughly $150,000 that we were able to save. But we're about to exceed that. Again, in our analysis, what we have found is that the schools tell us that they now produce materials that used to come from the central printing facility, and they have to produce it themselves. We've gone to a number of schools, and we'll see them producing the same materials over and over again at different locations. I do believe that if we, again, produce those things in the print shop and then distributing them to the schools, we would save a great deal of time. We will also save money because it is cheaper to produce them in mass, only when you have high production, on printing presses in the printing facility and distribute them to the schools than it is to produce them on the copy machines. So we reduce the cost on the copy machines and reduce the cost of the factor of the teachers standing at machines making copies. We've also, when we refreshed the fleet, made it so that all the devices defaulted to duplex. However, we did have to leave the option for the user to be able to turn that feature off, and all they have to do is simply push the button and it'll turn it off. We are trying to, in our awareness program, let everyone know that it can save a great deal of money for the system if we did duplex. And we have calculated that we could save as much as $700,000 a year in the cost of paper if we simply duplexed. So that, we feel, is a very important issue, and we're going to try to continue to do that. My lessons learned really are what I've already stated, and that is the fact that we can save money in a number of areas by duplexing and by also producing some of the materials in-house. Our accomplishments have been, as I stated earlier, that we completed the copier refresh. 96% of our requests were completed on time. We also have some very old digital production printers, which produce about 1 million copies a month, which are no longer upgradable, and many of the new software packages we can't even use. So we do need to replace those devices and intend to do that this year. And we have already established copy allotments. Beginning on October the 1st, all schools will receive a new copy allotment that will last from October the 1st through September the 30th. We instituted the copy allotments in hopes of preventing an overage fee this year, and that began on June the 6th, and it runs through September the 30th. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson?
Thank you, sir. Are we seeing a decrease in down copy time? I think about the old days of when copiers became the rage in schools. The lines were long, and it seemed like after every other teacher, it went down. We're seeing less downtime of copiers in the school system.
Actually, last year we had more downtime.
Okay.
And again, it was attributed to the fact that there was a great deal more production on the copiers. The more you use them, of course, the more that they may break down. Additionally, with the upgraded devices that we put in place, they make automatic calls. So they do PM calls themselves. Now, it'll look like it is down as far as if you look at a report. The user doesn't know it, but it has already sent a report to the vendor to say that we need whatever to be addressed.
One of the concerns, and I don't know how that can be answered or alleviated, because of individualized instruction, which is clearly what we need, teachers need to be able to have variations on his or her lessons, which means that sometimes rather than duplexing an item that's back and front, it might be a single page that might be slightly different. I'm not sure where I'm going with this in terms of, do you believe that the copying that is occurring is contributing to student growth and learning, as you have been able to see the uptick in numbers of copies and then amount of downtime because of the usage? How do you monitor that? What are you learning about this?
Well, there's a couple of things there, and you mentioned about the duplexing, and some, for whatever the reason is, that they would prefer to have it as a single sheet. We fully understand that. That's why the feature is there that can be turned off. Now, once they finish what they do, it'll default back to that. But it is their choice. They can duplex or not duplex. I cannot speak to whether this is necessary or not in the classroom. I do know that I speak with the teachers, and the teachers tell me that it is necessary. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, and I see them producing the same things at many different locations, and I would expect, therefore, that it is necessary. And so I do believe that it is beneficial to the system. where we do not have the increase in the copies, we do have less breakdowns. Quite naturally, they're not using it as much. And the culture at some schools is to run more copies than it is at others.
Clearly, over time, over the span of years of where copiers were only in the main office to now that they are very convenient to the teacher classroom, sometimes the culture in a school is not making copies is wonderful. In other schools, there's no oversight over that. And and copies are, you know, it's expensive with the toner and all that. I just want to make sure that if we have our textbooks there, these kind, you know, internet packages, et cetera, I just want to make sure that as we get your report about numbers of copies, breakage and breakdown, et cetera, that it is merely to give us information about the cost, et cetera, to look at better ways. But I am not suggesting that we do anything that removes the ability of a classroom teacher to get what they need to run their classrooms and to engage children.
I fully agree with that,
Okay.
and do believe that we should provide them with what is necessary for them to do that. What we are hoping is that they'll simply monitor what is being done and not produce those things that are not necessary.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Mr. Arnold?
Thank you for your presentation, sir. This is really quick. Do you have any idea of how many multifunction devices like the printers, the inkjet printers and multifunction are being used for copies locally, and what is our increase in cartridge usage as a result of local teachers doing that? I know that may not be your area specifically, but that's probably an impact. How many more cartridges are we buying now for the multifunction machines? Also, I wonder if we might use this printing problem as a justification for increasing the use of technology such as iPads, tablet devices for students, decreasing the need for hard copies across the system. Has there been any discussion of that as a way of transferring that data and justifying that cost?
Let me address your last question first. Yes, I do believe that the iPads and tablets and electronic devices are the wave of the future, and that they are truly justified in the prevention of having to make so many copies and have so much paper and the rest of that. So I do believe that this is certainly justification to do that. It's just the immediate need that we are addressing as far as that's concerned, and immediately, of course, everybody doesn't have that. But certainly I do believe that this is a justification. This is part of a reason why we should have those types of devices in the classroom, and that students should have access to that. I don't want to prevent, as I've mentioned, anyone from being able to do whatever it is that they need to do to teach the children. And if that means that they need to have more copies, I think we need to provide that, at least in the immediate future. And that's really.
Ms. Johnson?
You're talking about the iPad, et cetera. One of the things I'm sure you know, textbooks are online, the publishers, and one of the things that perhaps the teachers will begin to afford themselves of it to the classroom, those worksheets and things that are online can be filled out online and can be put into a folder for the teacher online, or can be printed out at a child's home, the child that has a computer, a printer, et cetera. And so these are also some things that we might want to suggest to add to the kit bag, the toolkit for the school and for the teachers. I've used them and used them with my students, and I will tell you, not having to haul home every paper was a nice thing. So when you go into chapter whatever and do it, and then, you know, they can pop it right into a little folder, and the teacher has access to every child's activity sheet that they do, and
Yes.
that really makes it very nice.
We have learned that it seems that the elementary schools need more paper produced than in the higher levels. And I believe that's directly attributed to the fact that the younger children need that piece of paper in there. I don't know if they're drawing or they're filling it out and so on. But so that therefore the trend is higher in the elementary and the lower grades than it is in the upper grades. And I do believe it does decrease as it goes on. I didn't address one of the other questions. That's the desktop printers, if I may. And we had a pilot earlier this year that is actually something we would like to take over in a managed print program. Managed print programs now are happening throughout the nation, and that is to encompass the desktop printers and the multifunctional devices or any type of printing apparatus into one program, because you have an unknown when you have those desktop printers and the cost of the cartridges and how many printers that there are and so on. Mr. Miles' office provided me with some figures last year, and we had spent $1.5 million in cartridges throughout the system. We have found that here in the Sasser building, there are 400 employees and there are 400 desktop printers just in this building. And when we look at the entire system, we're probably looking at 12 to 15,000 desktop printers. Now, we don't even know how many copies are being produced there, but that's added to what we're speaking of. And keep in mind that schools have to pay for their paper, and the offices, they pay for their paper. They don't have to pay for the copies, that comes under the copier program, but they do pay for the paper. So that's an expense directly that goes to them and is added to. They also purchase every single printer outside of the copier program. So we'd like to roll all of that in and be able to control that better. And we do believe we can reduce the costs probably in half of what is being spent currently.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That concludes our presentation today.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Beck?
You're welcome.
Can we go back to the 20% loss in staff? And 20% is a number, it doesn't tell me actually FTEs.
Excuse me?
You had a statement that IT had a 20% loss in staff.
No, ma'am, we had 20 FTE. It's about 10% of our staff.
So you had 20 staff.
20 FTE, not staff. We had
Percentage of my staff, out of 23, we lost 1%.
so
Okay.
My department.
Mr. Antar made a statement of 20%. It was 20% of his staff.
Staff. But
In IT, we lost 20 positions, which is 10% of our staff, 10% of the FTEs.
And you lost 20 positions, and how many will be filled? These were cut positions?
These are cut, yes, ma'am.
So the individuals that left due to retirement and visa issues, you would be rehiring for those?
No, ma'am,
No.
we cut the positions.
Cut the positions. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Watts?
Thank you.
You and your staff, thank you so much for the presentation. We learned much of our IT issues from Ms. Johnson. She makes sure that we do. So what it does is reinforce for us. I said that we learned much of our IT stuff from you, Ms. Johnson. She's still trying to teach me how to use the Mac that you gave me. But thank you so much. I mean, we recognize that your job is tedious and that there's a lot to be done, and sometimes we know that it's user error when we have our issues, but we really do appreciate the work and time that you put in and the patience that you put in throughout the system. So we look forward to the IT systems oversight every year. And I think we end up having it maybe twice a year that we have the oversight provision. So thank you very much for your work and your presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're very welcome. Dr. Height?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And before we move to item 5.0, I too want to acknowledge my appreciation for the work that's done in the Department of Informational Technology. These individuals are service-minded. They find ways to resolve our issues, and they don't lament what they once had but no longer have. They just continue to push on, and so I just wanted to provide them with my appreciation for the work that you do on behalf of all of the employees of their school system. With that, Madam Chair, I am pleased to recommend the consent agenda items. Items 5.1 to 5.7.
Thank you, Dr. Height. Colleagues, we're at the point of approving. Actually, we have to do them separate. Item 5.1 through 6 on the consent agenda. Thank you, Ms. Beck. Is there a second? It's been properly moved and second that we approve items 5.1 through 5.6 on the consent agenda. All in favor? Aye. Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. That brings us to item 5.7. Is there a motion?
Move to accept.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. It's been properly moved and second that we accept item 5.7 on the consent agenda. Let's see. All in favor? Aye. Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, motion passed. Okay. Okay, we have 4 proclamations to read into the record. Ms. Beck, if you would please read the proclamation commemorating Constitution Day in Prince George's County Public Schools on September 16, 2011.
Proclamation Constitution Day. Whereas in 1787, the framers of the Constitution met in Philadelphia and drafted a document that continues to be the foundation of our nation's identity. We celebrate the establishment of the United States Constitution and honor the framers of this revolutionary document. And whereas the United States Constitution has sometimes been called a living document and has been amended in order to reflect a growing and changing country. No laws may be enacted which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protections of the laws. And whereas America is grateful to those who have worked to defend our Constitution and promote its ideals, we recognize the profound impact the Constitution has had on the everyday lives of our citizens, and we call upon all Prince Georgians to help uphold its values of a free and just society. And whereas, in remembrance and celebration of the signing of the Constitution and in recognition of the Americans who strive to uphold the duties and responsibilities of citizenship, the Congress, by joint resolution of February 29, 1952, designated September 17th as Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. And whereas today every American shares in this legacy of liberty, we are grateful for the courage, conviction, and sacrifice of all those who have helped preserve and uphold the principles of a free society. As we remember the enduring importance of the Constitution, we also recognize our responsibility as citizens to respect and defend the values of our founding and participate in the unfolding story of freedom. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Prince George's County hereby recognizes and acknowledges September 16, 2011 as the observation of Constitution Day and September 16th through 22nd, 2011 as Constitution Week in our schools. Be it finally resolved, the Board of Education of Prince George's County hereby calls upon all school administrators, teachers, students, and citizens of Prince George's County to honor this observance and appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beck. Ms. Johnson, would you please read the proclamation commemorating National Hispanic Heritage Month in Prince George's County Public Schools, September 15th through October 15th, 2011?
Whereas Americans are a diverse people, we are bound by the common principles that teach us what it means to be a citizen of this nation. During National Hispanic Heritage Month, we recognize the many contributions of and the legacies created by Hispanic Americans in local communities and in our entire nation. And whereas Americans of Hispanic heritage have carried on proud traditions of service to our nation, Hispanic Americans have shown the good heart of our nation by volunteering to help their fellow Americans. Their kindness and compassion have made a difference in the lives of others and have made our country a more hopeful place for all. And whereas, in recognition of the support in shaping our national character and strengthening our communities, we acknowledge the warmth and vitality of Hispanic cultures and the enrichment this has brought to the unique fabric of our country. And whereas today, the more than 40 million Americans, over 300,000 in Maryland, and more than 10,000 within Prince George's County who claim Hispanic heritage, look back with pride on the achievements and contributions of their forebears. Hispanic Americans have distinguished themselves in every sector of American life. We are all enriched, strengthened, and blessed by their legacy in our country. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Prince George's County hereby honors Hispanic Americans for their many contributions to our nation and our local communities by recognizing the month-long period from September 15th to October 15th, 2011 as National Hispanic Heritage Month in Prince George's County Public Schools. Be it finally resolved, the Board of Education of Prince George's County hereby calls upon all school administrators, teachers, students, and citizens of Prince George's County to honor this observance with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Ms. Jackson, would you please read the proclamation commemorating Library Card Sign-Up Month in Prince George's County Public Schools?
Proclamation, Library Card Sign-Up Month, September 2011. September is Library Card Sign-Up Month, a time to remind everyone that a library card is the smartest card of all. Whereas September is Library Card Sign-Up Month, a time when the American Library Association and your local library reminds you to make sure your child has the most important school supply of all, a library card. And whereas the smartest card is a library card. And whereas a library card opens up a world of opportunity for people of all ages. And whereas a library card provides access to a goldmine of books, magazines, CDs, videos, computers, the internet, as well as story hours, book clubs, and numerous other activities that can give every child a head start on learning. And whereas library cards are the ticket to a variety of free programs and services for the whole family. And whereas children who have library cards and use a library perform better in school. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Prince George's County Public Schools does hereby proclaim September 2011 as Library Card Sign-Up Month in all of the public schools of Prince George's County and calls upon school administrators, teachers, students, and citizens of Prince George's County to recognize and support this action and to participate throughout the month of September in the celebration of Library Card Sign-Up Month.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Burrows, would you please read the proclamation commemorating National Day of Service and Remembrance in Prince George's County Public School System on September 12, 2011?
Whereas in 2009, President Barack H. Obama signed into law the designation of September 11th as the National Day of Service and Remembrance, whereas this observance came about as a result of years of hard work by September 11th, 2001 families and service organizations. And whereas America is grateful to those who have worked to defend our Constitution and promote its ideals, we recognize the profound impact that service has on everyday lives of our citizens, and we call upon all Prince Georgians to help uphold its values of a free and just society. And whereas, in remembrance of September 11, 2001, and in recognition of the Americans who strive to uphold the duties and responsibilities of citizenship. And whereas every American is grateful for the courage, conviction, and sacrifice of all those who have helped preserve and uphold the principles of a free society. As we remember the enduring importance of the Constitution, we also recognize our responsibility as citizens to respect and defend the values of our founding and participate in the unfolding story of freedom. And whereas the National Day of Service and Remembrance provides an opportunity for all Americans to serve in some way, to make a commitment to serve throughout the year, and to bring about solutions to social problems. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Prince George's County hereby recognizes and acknowledges September 12th as the observation of the National Day of Service and Remembrance. Be it finally resolved that the Prince George's County Board of Education hereby calls upon all school administrators, teachers, citizens, and students of Prince George's County to honor this day of observance with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities.
Thank you, Mr. Burrows. Colleagues, we have no governance unfinished business on the agenda for today. We do have new business first readers, a resolution naming of the administrative building of the William Schmidt Center, the John Neville Administration Building. Dr. Haidt, I'm sorry. There's no discussion necessary as this is listed as a first reader. May I have a motion to accept 8.1?
I am so sorry. In the proclamation that I read, I didn't want to not have it flow, but the number that is given of the number of Hispanic residents of Prince George's County is significantly more than noted, and there are 300+ thousand, actually there are more than that in Maryland, but there are 129,000 in Prince George's County, and I do want to make that notation. It is a dynamic and ever-growing community.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
I'm so sorry.
No problem. Thank you so much for pointing that out to us. Colleagues, may I have a motion to accept as a first reader the resolution naming of the administrative building for the William Schmidt Center to John Neville Administration Building?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Paulson.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. It's been properly moved and second that we accept this item as a first reader. No discussion. All in favor? Aye. Any objections or abstentions? Seeing none, the motion passed. Thank you. Public comment on non-agenda items. Colleagues, we do not have public comment speakers listed for today for non-agenda items. Any questions on follow-up items? Seeing none. We are not going to confirm actions taken in executive session as we must return to executive session, and the time is now 5:13. This part of the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.